I remember the moment like it just happened. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind that smelled like roasted chicken and peace. I was on the balcony, scrolling through old photos on my phone when she came bursting out of the bedroom like she'd won the lottery. "Baby," she screamed, her voice trembling with joy. "Baby, guess what?" She was barefoot, her silk wrapper slipping off one shoulder, her hair undone, wild with excitement. She ran toward me, holding something small in her hand, waving it like a golden ticket. I stood up, confused. Then she said the words that felt like a thunderclap. "I'm pregnant. Pregnant." The word echoed in my ears like a gunshot in an empty hallway. She laughed and cried at the same time, jumping into my arms, wrapping herself around me like a child who just got the toy she always wanted. I hugged her back. I even managed to smile. I think I said something like, "Wow, babe. That's amazing." My voice shook. I'm sure she thought it was from happiness. It wasn't. Inside, my world was shattering. You see, what Mirabel didn't know, and what I never thought I'd have to explain, was that I had a vasectomy. Not recently. Not last year. 5 years before I met her. It was after my first marriage ended. After we lost our son. After I made peace with the idea that fatherhood wasn't in the cards for me anymore. I went in for the procedure, sat with the doctor, signed the consent form, and did it. Just like that. No more children. No more chances to feel that kind of pain again. And I never told anyone. Not my siblings. Not my friends. Not even Mirabel when we started dating. Back then, she was still healing from a bad relationship. She told me she wanted kids eventually, but not immediately. I figured we had time. I figured I'd tell her later, maybe when things got more serious. But somehow, later never came. And now, here she was. Pregnant. Glowing. Crying. Dancing. And me? I stood there, frozen, staring at a future that suddenly made no sense. My hands were around her waist, but my heart was on the floor. I remember the way she looked up at me, eyes shining, whispering, "God did it for us, baby. I told you this year would be different." And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. She believed this was a miracle, but I knew it was a lie. Not hers. God, I hope not hers. But if not, then whose? I excused myself, said I needed to sit down. She giggled and ran to the kitchen, probably to make a smoothie for the baby. And I sat there on the couch, staring at the pregnancy test she left on the table. 2 red lines. Clear as day. 2 lines that tore through everything I thought I knew. I didn't sleep that night. I watched her sleeping instead, one hand on her belly, a slight smile on her lips. Peaceful. Dreaming. But me? I was wide awake. Caught between joy, fear, and the kind of heartbreak no one prepares you for. Because how do you tell the woman you love, the woman carrying your child, that the baby inside her can't possibly be yours? "I'm so proud of you," I whispered, pressing a kiss to her forehead. She beamed. "God came through for us, baby." I smiled. I even laughed a little. And then I wrapped my arms around her and whispered again, "Yeah, God came through." But inside, I was unraveling. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like my ribs might snap. My thoughts were screaming, chaotic, overlapping like a broken record. "She's pregnant. You're sterile. She doesn't know." How? I stayed close that day, watched her like a hawk, smiled every time she looked my way. She was radiant, singing around the house, calling her sister, already looking up baby names. And I was acting, pretending, dying inside with every breath I took. That night, I lay in bed beside her and stared at the ceiling, listening to her soft breathing. And my mind went back to how this all began. We met at a conference. She was seated in the second row, taking notes furiously while the keynote speaker talked about resilience. After the event, I complimented her on her questions. She laughed, said she thought I was a pastor. I told her I wasn't, not anymore. We started talking, first at events, then over lunch. She was healing from betrayal, and I was just surviving. But something about her made me believe again. She was kind. She was thoughtful. She didn't care that I had scars. She said I made her feel safe. Funny how life turns. She gave me back my smile, my peace, and I promised I'd protect her heart with everything I had, which is what makes this, whatever this is, feel like hell. I told myself I was being paranoid, that maybe, just maybe, it was a fluke. Maybe the pregnancy test was faulty. Maybe some rare medical miracle had reversed the vasectomy. Maybe God had decided to surprise me. I clung to those maybes like a drowning man clings to driftwood. But I had to know. I needed facts. So I booked a private appointment at a clinic far from home. Used a fake name. Wore sunglasses. Told Mirabel I had to travel for work. The test was simple. The wait, not so much. 2 days later, I returned for the results. The doctor gave me a long look before handing over the file. Still sterile, he said softly. There's no sign of reversal. I'm sorry. I nodded. Swallowed hard. Left the clinic and sat in my car for a long time. Still sterile. Still sterile. Not maybe. Not halfway. Completely. So if I didn't do this, who did? I drove home with a smile on my face and acid in my chest. She welcomed me like nothing was wrong. Dinner was jollof rice and fried plantain. She told me her cravings were starting already. She held my hand. Said, "Thank you for being the father of my child." And I nodded. Because what else could I do? At that point, all I had were two options. 1. Blow everything up and demand answers. 2. Stay quiet. And investigate. I chose option 2. For now. But something was burning behind my silence. And I knew. This was only the beginning. There's a special kind of madness that comes from pretending everything is okay when you know it's not. Every "I love you" from her felt like a lie. Every smile? A weapon. I started watching her more than loving her. I told myself it was just precaution. But let's be honest, I was hunting for the truth. It started with her phone. Nothing too crazy, just casual glances when she wasn't looking. But soon I memorized her password. Watched how often she smiled at her screen. Noticed how quickly she flipped it over when I walked into her room. Then came the texts. Most were harmless. Bible study group chats. Her sister. Her mom. But there was one name I couldn't shake off. Toby Work. The same Toby she once introduced as just a friend. The same one who always commented "proud of you, Queen" on her Instagram. The one who came to her birthday dinner last year and hugged her just a little too long. He was polite. Respectful. Harmless. Or so I thought. But now, I wasn't sure about anything anymore. One evening, she was in the bathroom, humming to herself. Her phone buzzed. I didn't touch it, didn't have to. I already had access to everything from my laptop. I had synced her email days ago, using software I found online. It felt wrong. Dirty. But I needed answers. I opened her email. There they were. The messages. Dozens of them. From him. It started months ago. Casual jokes. Then flirting. Then a message that made my stomach churn. Last weekend with you was unforgettable. Can't stop thinking about it. Last weekend. The timestamp? 3 weeks before she told me she was pregnant. There was even a picture. Them in a hotel. Room service in the background. Her in his hoodie. He was behind her, kissing her cheek. She looked happy. She looked free. I closed the laptop slowly, my hands shaking. I couldn't breathe. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, while she came out of the bathroom, still humming, rubbing cocoa butter on her belly like she was preparing for a baby shower. My baby. No. His. I excused myself. Said I needed air. Walked out. Sat in the car. And screamed. I wanted to confront her. Right there. Right then. Shake her. Demand the truth. Burn everything down. But I didn't. I couldn't. Why? Because I wasn't ready to hear her say it. Wasn't ready to see the love of my life turn into a stranger. Instead, I sat in that car for hours, watching the house, the windows, the lights. And all I could think was, who is my wife? Who have I been sleeping beside every night? And what am I going to do now? The next morning, I brewed her favorite tea mint with a splash of honey and watched her walk into the kitchen like everything was normal. She was humming again. Always humming. I waited until she took a sip, until her guard was down, until her eyes softened and she smiled at me. Then I asked, gently, too gently, Mirabel, is there anything you want to tell me? She blinked. What do you mean? I didn't answer right away. I studied her face, the twitch in her brow, the way her lips parted and then closed. The fear that flashed and disappeared like a shadow. About Toby, I said. She froze. Just for a second. Then she laughed. Not a nervous laugh, an offended one. Are you serious right now? I didn't smile. I didn't blink. Don't do that, I said. Don't lie to me. Her jaw tightened. You're being ridiculous. Mirabel. I saw the emails. Her face drained of color. The mug slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. Silence. Just silence. Then came the tears. Big, dramatic sobs. You went through my things, she shouted. How could you invade my privacy? I almost laughed. That's what you're upset about? She folded her arms. Pacing now. Angry, defensive. She was wearing a black silk robe, hair wrapped, belly just beginning to show. If I didn't know better, I'd have thought she was just a hormonal pregnant woman having a bad morning. I didn't cheat on you, she snapped. I said nothing. She marched closer. I didn't. Mirabel. My voice cracked. I saw the photo. She stopped cold. Then her whole body seemed to deflate. A long pause. Then she whispered, it was a mistake. Just once, she added quickly, like that made it better. It was a vulnerable moment. We were fighting then. You've been so distant. I stared at her. She said it like I had pushed her into someone else's arms. You think that justifies what you did? No. No, I'm not saying that. I was lonely. Toby was just there. It was never supposed to happen. I didn't mean for it to. She took a step forward. Please believe me. You slept with him, Mirabel. One time. You're carrying his baby. No, she cried. You don't know that. You can't know that for sure. I had a vasectomy before we even met. Her mouth dropped open. You what? I had a vasectomy 5 years ago. After my first marriage ended. After our daughter died. She stumbled back like I'd slapped her. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't think I'd ever want a family again. Until I met you. Until you made me believe I could start over. Her lips trembled. Then, maybe it reversed. You hear stories. Miracles happen. I shook my head slowly. I just got tested again last week. I'm still sterile. She collapsed onto a chair, covering her face, wailing. And in that moment, I wanted to hate her. I should have hated her. But I didn't. Because she still looked like the woman I loved. The woman who danced in the living room barefoot. Who prayed in tongues over me when I had nightmares. Who once held my hand in the dark and told me, you are more than what broke you. That woman was still in there. Somewhere. So I sat beside her. Quiet. Numb. And we just cried. Two broken people. Two broken hearts. One unborn child between us full of questions neither of us could answer. From the outside, we looked picture perfect. Sunday mornings at church, her arm tucked in mine, belly round with promise, both of us dressed in matching colors. Smiles polished. Laughter staged. People would stop us and say things like, you two are glowing. And we'd smile and nod. Because the truth was too ugly to say out loud. At home, silence lived in every room. We'd pass each other like strangers. Meals were eaten in separate spaces. Even the way she breathed near me felt forced, calculated. I watched the months pass like a man trapped in a glass box, screaming with no sound. Some nights, I'd stare at the ceiling, wondering why I hadn't left yet. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe I still loved her. Maybe I was scared that walking away meant facing my pain head on, and I wasn't ready. I started drinking again. Quietly. Secretly. Not enough to be obvious. Just enough to sleep. I'd pour a finger of whiskey into my coffee mug after she went to bed, sit on the balcony, and listen to the night talk back. One of those nights, I couldn't take it anymore. So I wrote a letter. To the baby. The one growing inside her. The one I didn't make, but couldn't ignore. Dear little one. I don't know your name. I don't even know if I'll be there when you arrive. But I need to say some things before the weight of silence drowns me completely. I loved your mother. Desperately. Completely. I still do. In ways I don't understand. She gave me back a reason to live after I'd lost everything. She brought sunlight to places in me that had only known graves. But she broke me. She broke something in me I didn't know could break again. You weren't supposed to happen. Not to me. Not like this. But here you are. Growing. Kicking. Preparing to enter a world where your origin is already a question mark. And somehow, I don't blame you. Maybe it's not your fault. Maybe you're just the product of two hurting people making broken choices in a broken world. Maybe you'll bring healing. Or maybe you'll carry our scars. I don't know what the future holds. But I pray you never have to write a letter like this. With all my confusion. The man who might never be your father, but can't stop thinking about you. When I finished, I folded the paper neatly and tucked it into a shoebox under the bed. Mirabel was asleep in the next room, curled around a pregnancy pillow. And me? I sat in the darkness and wept until morning. They say the moment you hold your child for the first time, something inside you shifts like a key turning in a long-forgotten lock. But when I held her, nothing clicked. She was perfect. Small fingers, sleepy eyes, a fragile cry that made nurses smile. Everyone kept saying, she looks just like you. But I knew they were wrong. There was no resemblance that DNA hadn't already betrayed. No bloodline linking us in quiet truth. Just assumptions. illusions. And behind those illusions stood Mirabel. Her face, damp with sweat, smiling weakly from the hospital bed. "Isn't she beautiful?" she whispered. I nodded. That was all I could give. I didn't kiss her forehead. I didn't whisper promises to the child in my arms. Instead, I handed the baby back and quietly excused myself. I'd already made arrangements. 2 days after we got home, the DNA kit arrived in discreet packaging. While Mirabel was napping, I swabbed the inside of the baby's cheek, my hands trembling like a man defusing a bomb. A week later, the result came by email. I clicked the link, scrolled past the disclaimers, held my breath. Probability of paternity, 0%. That's all it said, but it might as well have screamed. I walked straight to the bathroom, locked the door, slid to the floor like my bones couldn't carry the weight of it anymore. And I broke. I didn't cry like a man. I cried like a child who just realized no one was coming to pick him up. Loud, ugly, gut deep. I could still hear Mirabel's voice outside, singing softly to the baby, "Jesus loves me." This I know. But inside that bathroom, I only heard silence. The kind of silence that marks the end of something you'll never get back. A journal entry from an undisclosed location. I didn't leave a note. Didn't slam the door. Didn't make a scene. I just disappeared. Took my passport, my silence, and the last of my dignity and vanished. Sometimes, I imagine Mirabel waking up and checking the closet. Half my clothes gone. The drawers empty. My scent fading from the pillow. Maybe she cried. Maybe she didn't. I'll never know. I didn't want to. Now I write this from a place no one knows. Far from the house we built. Far from the church friends asking, "Where's your wife and baby?" Far from the truth I couldn't keep swallowing. But the thing is, I still dream about her. The baby girl. I see her walking through fields in slow motion, laughing, running, calling a name that should have been mine. And I wake up with a hole in my chest. I hear Mirabel's voice in my sleep, sometimes calling me baby, whispering prayers. Lying. I didn't leave because I stopped loving her. I left because love shouldn't survive betrayal. It shouldn't have to beg to be honored. It shouldn't come second to a mistake someone chooses to protect. I never wanted to be a father again. After what I lost in my first marriage, I'd sworn I was done. But somehow, when she told me she was pregnant, a part of me lit up. Hope peeked in. And when the truth came, it didn't just blow out the flame. It burned the house down. So I left. Not because I didn't care, but because I cared too much. And what I cared about was never mine to begin with.